Today I'm talking about shadow boxing or shadow dancing. That is, what do you do with your shadow? Do you try to box it and beat it into place and suppress it and repress it and deny it? Or do you dance with it? And do you determine how it can lead you into transformation? What do you do with your shadow? Do you pretend you don't have one? Do you pretend that, hey, I'm in unity. I don't have a shadow. I'm all light. But you know, when there's light, there's a shadow. And each one of us has one. Now, I want to share with you a scripture that you just heard sung. This comes from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Wow, take that with you this week. That you do not have the spirit of fear, unless you choose to. You can choose to have it. You know, you're a free being and you can choose to have fear. But it's an option. You do not have to live in fear. You can live from this place of power, love, and a sound mind. So we don't have to be afraid of the shadow. We don't have to be afraid of those aspects of ourselves. You may wonder, what is the shadow? It's those things in ourselves that we maybe are ashamed of, maybe are afraid to look at, those things that we're in denial about. Now, specifically, I'll be talking some about shadow beliefs, but Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist, contemporary of Sigmund Freud, said that when people do not do their shadow work, they will, not maybe, they will project their shadows onto others. They will. And you wonder why this work is so important in a spiritual community? I don't think we need to even guess about why it's important in a spiritual community. When we want to show up as our highest and best selves, we don't want to be projecting our own stuff onto others. Now, it may be more convenient. It may be more convenient to say, oh, the problem is other people. In many ways, I'm an existentialist. Maybe you've never studied existentialism, but basically existentialism is a branch of philosophy that determines that we as individuals have a choice about who we are. That's kind of breaking it down in simple terms. Soren Kierkegaard, my favorite philosopher, talked about this in terms of being the presence of God, like Jesus did. But there are others who are from an atheistic frame of mind, such as Jean-Paul Sartre. And he said this, and see if this fits your definition of other people. He says, hell is other people. That's projecting your shadow. Making other people the problem. They are the ones to blame. If they would just straighten up, then my life would be fine. And that's placing our power outside of ourselves. Then it's based in the circumstances. It's based on how other people are treating me, how other people are acting. And what does that make me? A victim. Picture an arrow running through my head, walking around, poor me. This is what happens because of other people. It's victim consciousness. To not do our shadow work because we inevitably project that onto others and make ourselves a victim. And being a victim means that we are giving away our power, giving it away. It's like going to the gas station to fill up your tank, but instead of filling up your tank, you're just spraying on the concrete, paying for it. Anybody need gas? I'm just going to leak it out here. That's what you're doing with your power when you go into victim consciousness. You are leaking power. You are leaking yourself. You are leaking your God self and selling yourself short. Is that what you want to do? It's good to have you back, Elizabeth. Thank you. You are so spot on. No, why do I want to leak my energy? Why do I want to leak what I am? Elizabeth's got this. She came up to me after the service last Sunday and she was telling me about the points in my message. Yeah. Thank you. How old are you, Elizabeth? 6. All right? So, don't be afraid of your shadow. You don't have to beat it up. You don't have to suppress it. You don't have to be in denial. And here is a shadow aspect of the unity movement, of many unity churches. And I know we have a lot of people watching online. It's not to air out our dirty laundry. However, the unity movement has a shadow side. We have a lot of things in our shadows. And part of our shadow side is our denial that we have a shadow side. That everything's great, everything's good, all is good. And it's true, all is good. And we say, I'm the presence of God and things are good today. And, what shadow? I don't have no shadow. Do you have a shadow? No, I don't have a shadow. I just have a smiley face. I come to church with my smiley face. Rest of the week, maybe not, because we project our shadow. It can't help but to come out. The shadow gets more and more power the more we ignore it, the more we deny it. It's like my son when he was 3. If I ignored him, that didn't get him quiet. He was determined to get my attention. Your shadow wants your attention. Your shadow is trying to wake you up. Your shadow is trying to get you to see what your needs are. And as long as you're pressing them down, it's just giving your shadow side more energy. There's a story in the Gospels. This comes in Mark chapter 5 and in Luke chapter 8. And this story is about Jesus. Jesus spent a lot of his time in the Sea of Galilee area. At that time it was called Palestine, now called Israel. And Jesus would go back and forth around areas around the Sea of Galilee. On the east side of Galilee, and I've been at the Sea of Galilee, on the east side is a place, a region where the Gerasenes would live. And so at one point, Jesus traveled over to where the Gerasenes were. Preaching mission, his 12 apostles were with him, some of the women followers were with him. And there was this man that people were so afraid of because he would cut himself with rocks. He would live in the cemeteries, in the tombs. He would run around naked. He would scream and rant and rave. Not the person that most of us would want to walk up to and strike up a conversation. Jesus, however, chose to talk to him. Now, they would bind this man with chains. They didn't have good mental health in those days in terms of caring for mental health. I think we have inadequacies in our system to this day, having been a professional who's worked in the field. But nevertheless, it's a lot better than 2,000 years ago. And they would chain this man. But he became so strong, he would break out of those chains. He could not be subdued. He could not be held back. That represents, if you will, because, sometimes I've read this story and it's fascinating, but it's like, what does this story have to do with me? Think of him as representing your shadow side. That eventually it will break out. Eventually it will come out, and it will come out in destructive ways. It will come out in ways that are harmful. It will come out in ways that you can't control. Here's one possible statement that's a tip-off when it's getting out of control. Yeah, I'm angry. That person made me angry. They made you angry. They have the power to create your emotion? Really? I thought it was your emotion. Evidently, they triggered you. Do you know about triggers? Do you know what your triggers are? Some of them? And the more we are around people, if we are conscious about the process, the more we find out what our triggers are. Now, if you live in a cave, you'll still get triggered, but the more you're around people, the more triggers you'll find, because that's what we're all here for. We're here to help each other grow, either in support or by triggering one another. It depends on whether or not we're doing our work. Sometimes the person that may trigger us the most is the one that lives in the same house. We marry our mirror. Marriage is an institution that comes from God, not only to help us to live fully and love fully, but to show us who we are. Isn't God good? Now, wouldn't that make a great wedding message? You are marrying your mirror. And everything you do not like about yourself will show up. And you will project it onto this other person just as they will with you. Do you agree to do your work together? Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes. So, people trigger us. It goes with life. And so Jesus, with this man representing our shadow, he faced him. Just like we need to face our shadow self. Just like we need to face those aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at. I gave this assignment this last Tuesday night. We're having a great time and discover the power within you. And I gave this assignment to go through the week and look at those things that are holding you back. Look at those things that are holding you back from expressing fully as the presence of God. Look at those things that weigh you down. We used this video called Float, and this boy's backpack was filled with rocks because his father wanted to hold him down. What are the things that hold you down? And I'm not talking about other people. I mean within yourself. Anger. That's one of them. Thank you. That's good. Anything else anyone want to shout out? What holds you down?
Fear.
Fear. What else? Self-image. What else? Not enough. Selfishness? What? Lacking. Okay, lack. There's so many things, and it helps to be able to name it. The reason is then we're getting into focus. Then we're really facing it. So when Jesus faced this man, he said, "What is your name?" And the man said, "Legion." Legion, is like a legion of soldiers was made up of hundreds of soldiers. So he said legion because he had thousands within him. Now, I'm amazed, first of all, that this man was willing to have a conversation with Jesus. Jesus, to bring this up to speed, something we can use in this day, represents for us that Christ presence that we are in this world, willing to be that strength, that power, that love, that sound mind, not afraid to face our shadow self and to look at it square in the face and ask it, "What is your name? Who are you?" And then we look at where did it come from? So we're not afraid of the shadow. Instead of boxing it and trying to beat it down and suppress it, we are instead dancing with it. Shadow dancing. Then it loses its power. And in this particular case, the man that was called Legion became sane, and it says of a sound mind. He was sitting fully clothed at the feet of Jesus, and people looked at him knowing that this is the person who had just been, out of control. And now he's the very example of centeredness, groundedness, being his highest self. The people got scared when they saw that. It's like, woo, what's going on here? When we are willing to face our shadow self, when we are willing to look at it and look at those aspects, whether it's feeling incompetent, feeling in lack, whether it is a sense of not enough, whether it is a sense of unworthiness, whatever it is that we may feel about ourselves, in that moment, we can look at it and we can name it. And that's part of the process. Let me give you an example. And I do this with some hesitation, because I'm going to share with you part of my own shadow. And I'm okay with sharing some of my shadow. But it's like, well, what if people choose to use that shadow on me? I trust you. And in any case, hey, if someone tries to use it on me, that's just a great occasion for me to encourage you to do your own shadow work. So, when I grew up, and very loving mother, father, my mother's watching, and grew up in school. Nevertheless, in various places in my childhood, I received messages, or I created messages based on circumstances and things that were happening in my life. I created these beliefs called shadow beliefs, that such as I am incompetent. I had the shadow belief. And the shadow typically never fully goes away. It's in the background, but it does not control my life anymore. So this sense of being incompetent. Timmy, why can't you focus in school? Timmy, why can't you get your work done? Timmy, what is wrong with you? Timmy, you are such a problem in this class. Let's get the jump rope out. I'm going to tie Timmy to the chair with the jump rope. So I created this belief around these experiences that I'm incompetent. I'm evidently a failure. I can't do stuff right. Something's wrong with me. Something's broken in me. I grew up with this belief. I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but think of your own shadow. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm happy with who I am. I love who I am. And we all have this kind of stuff in us, okay? So you don't need to come up to me afterwards and try to fix me. And I don't need to fix you, because each one of us has our own work to do, and we can't do the fixing in each other. Right? So, once in a while, it will just boop, pop up just a little bit. Like, I was in a meeting, and I was asking a question, I was doing something in the meeting, and what I was asking and what I was saying was being questioned. And boop, oh, am I doing this wrong? Do I not know what I'm doing? Is it that little hurt Timmy wanted to kind of come up? And because I'm doing this work, because I'm doing the quantum living process in my life every single day. This is not a one and done. Like, whew, did my worksheets. This is a process of awareness, of being aware of what's going on in my life, so I can do it in the moment. And so it's like, oh, there he is. There's a hurt little Timmy, and he's wondering if he's incompetent. And this is what I do even while I'm in the meeting. I'm still talking. I don't go off into a zone. Like, give me a moment, I'm mentally doing a worksheet. That'd be inconvenient. But in the moment, I'm speaking to that part of myself. I'm saying, I love you. You're safe. You're okay. You're not incompetent. You're highly skilled. You're highly intelligent. You're very, very experienced. You've been doing this a long time. You don't need to be defensive. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to project your stuff onto this other person. Just be present, curious, inquisitive, creative, and imaginative. That's what's called staying above the line. Below the line would be angry, defensive, blaming. Well, why do you ask that? I'm in charge. Have you ever done that? I'm in charge. How dare you question me? It's like, no. Let me just do my work while I'm talking with them, you know? It's like, no. So then we can engage in conversation and even talk about the process. And even talk about where they were coming from, where I was coming from. So we're doing it live in the moment rather than creating this thing where we start blaming each other and then we're dealing with the shadow side that we're each projecting, which has no benefit at all and no communication is occurring. This is why it's so essential in a spiritual community. This is why it's essential for all of our leadership and all of those who are in ownership in this spiritual community to be engaging in this practice. This is why it's so important for all of us that are part of this spiritual community. It's transformative. Wow, it's brought liberation to my life. To realize I do not have to fix other people. To realize that I can be who I truly am and face it and embrace it and dance with it, and I can love who I am and not be controlled by my fear. Our mission statement says, centered in God, we transform lives and assist people to make a positive difference in our world. So this is transformation. This class that Reverend Margie and Thomas are going to lead us in starting on this Saturday at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. online. I encourage you to sign up for it. I encourage that. And they will deal with, you don't have to. In fact, they encourage you not to dive into the deep stuff, but deal with the paper cuts. Deal with the smaller things so you can learn the process. It's so essential. So I think of Legion. And Legion begged Jesus, please take me with you. I can sympathize with him. I really can. It's like, don't leave me here. People think weird of me. Can we go somewhere different? But Jesus said, stay where you're at and tell others the good news of how your life has been transformed. That's what we're here to do as a spiritual community. As we experience transformation, and Reverend Johanna will share a transformation story with us next Sunday. Each month we will have a transformation story of how we're experiencing transformation in our lives. This is transformational stuff. My Tuesday night class, it's about transformation, realizing who we're really here to be. And so I move from that hurt little Timmy to who I'm really here to be. The presence of God in action. I'm here to be that presence of the Christ in this world. I'm here to be the one. I'm here to be intelligent, to be funny. I'm here to be excited. I'm here to be a full expression of my divinity. That's what I'm here to do, and nothing's going to stop me. Nothing is going to stop me. And it was really interesting for me to look at what is it that's holding me back? Think about that. What is it that's holding you back? And what would your life look like if you fully stepped into your divinity, if you fully stepped into being that presence of the Christ in our world? What would your life look like if, like Legion, you had this, direct connection, being in that presence of the Christ and came into power, love, and a sound mind? What would that look like in your life? Good. Thank you, Elizabeth. How would that show up at work? How would that show up in your interactions with people? How would that show up in interactions with the person you live with? How would it show up with the person you look at in the mirror? Because that's the one we really need to work on. So I encourage you to move from shadow boxing to shadow dancing. Let's breathe into that. That there's nothing for us to be afraid of. There's nothing to run from. We can totally be ourselves in the presence of God, knowing that this presence is here to live forth as us in our world. Just breathe into that as we go into a few moments of silence. Invite us to bring forth that Christ consciousness that we are, to bring it to earth as it is in heaven.